Hi guys, my name is Jenny Rathsack, and the article I chose today was Transition Options for Youth with Disabilities, an overview of the programs and policies that affect the transition from school. The authors were David Wittenberg, Thomas Golden, and Michael Fishman. This would be the article if you guys want to see it, otherwise it will be on my D2L discussion post page. The first question is, what was the purpose of the article? Meaning, what are the researchers trying to inform the reader about, and what do they want to or have us improve on, and what do they want us to keep doing? And a major component of this article was about how a big focus of IEPs are on the transition planning component, especially at the high school level, because the juice of this article is the high school level. And it's really important at this point because we do have to transition eventually into finding a job and what you're going to do with yourself after school. And the article really talked about, I'll show you the picture, it was like a flow chart. The top three are I know it's backwards, but it says in school, and the three components of those are like when you're in high school, and this is more so like to transition to getting a job outside of high school. The three on the top are support systems, school-based programs, and school activities. And for support systems, that kind of means like other staff, teachers, and administrations, and how they all need to like work together and find what the student needs the most. And other support systems included in the article were speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, and vocal rehabilitation programs to help find where the student is going to end up after high school. And also it talked about whether or not at certain points a special education teacher needs to have the student come out of the classroom, so like inclusion at some points or not. The next one is school-based programs. So this is more so the academic standpoint, like how is the student doing in school, how are their academics looking, is the classroom accommodated for his or her needs. So take, for example, I can think of is if a kid is visually impaired, are the teachers allowing him to sit in the front of the classroom, or is he getting the assistive technology he needs, or she? And if they're not, is it really a disability? Like, is it really the disability, or is it the teacher kind of thing? And there's also those classes that teachers or every student takes, so like gym, home economics, that kind of thing, and you really have to make sure you know how the students are doing in those subjects, because those subjects are fundamental to future jobs and what the student, like future independence, like living on your own. So it's really important to know certain functional skills from classes like that. The last one was student activities, so like what sports is the student in, what clubs are they in, are they feeling welcomed in those clubs? And it's really important, this can apply not only to the high school level, but also to other youth. Like, it's really important, I know at a younger age, to be more involved in like sports and activities and clubs, and to really make sure you find out what you like and what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you don't want to do. And all of these kind of flowchart ideas work together to eventually in the future create post-secondary plans or goals. And it's kind of cool because the flowchart involves not only quantitative data, so like grades and GPA and academic stand or ranking in the class, but it also involves qualitative data, so it's like observational data. And this article really wanted to let the reader know that instead of just focusing on the grades and the numbers, it's really important to be well-rounded in your IEP write-ups and transition planning for a student, because a student could really excel at an activity but might be struggling academically, so you can really find out where the student needs the most help, kind of thing. And it kind of leads to the next question, which is, how does this information help you within a school and or classroom as a teacher to support student learning? This should be related to transition in the class, so to please connect to the readings. For this part, I can say that The information helps as future educators because we know that we'll not only be working on our own, but we'll also be working with other staff, other teachers, administration, those kind of people. And transition services, again, go outside of our own realm of ideas. So we have to keep in mind that some students might need more services. And I can kind of link this to what we've learned in class because to me and to like what we've learned in class, the student needs like every single link or piece to the puzzle to eventually have that post-secondary goal created, kind of. And again, we need to, like, as we can remember from class, IEPs vary from state to state and from individual to individual. So it's really important, again, at that young age to get students involved in activities and different sports and that kind of thing. And then eventually, as they get older, they need to be more academic and more functional based, and all of the data, qualitative and quantitative, comes together to create successful transition, especially for those high school students that want to be in the workforce. And the 2 questions I chose on my own were: describe what future research should be completed and how could these affect students, plus how research could help the field of special ed. I kind of thought, again, the qualitative data component was really interesting and really valuable. So I think future research on the effects of qualitative data and how students transition is really important. Like, you can even apply that to a younger age. Like, if you don't observe a student in a sport or a club and you don't take data on it versus if you do, what student's going to transition better than the other in the future. And you can apply that too at the high school level with academics. And I think it would be also cool to take data on how many high school students transition properly to the post-secondary world and how quickly they do, and it should really be documented. And I mean, it probably already has, but it should continue to be documented. And they should take data on how many students with disabilities participate in activities and clubs. I think this is really important at the high school level because I know when a student is younger, they're not going to be like, there's not going to be cuts, there's not going to be that kind of thing. So I think it should really focus on, as the student gets older, are they staying in these activities or are they not? And the last one I did was discuss previous research reviewed. Why was it important to discuss the topic in a journal article for us to read, and what does the research want us to know? The previous research in this article was done in the 1970s and the 1980s, and it was more so like historical, like how we have gone a long ways from developing IEPs and integration into the classroom rather than just discrimination and exclusion and that kind of thing. And as we've worked on as a country and as a society creating more involvement or more inclusion and less discrimination, it's helped create the IDEA in 1997. And one of the past research studies in here was a national longitudinal transition survey by 2 people with the last name Black-Orby and Wagner, and it was conducted in the early 1990s, and they found that 69% of the population of students receiving services were males, and 35% of those males were from non-white families. So I know it's a lot of focus on males, but it shows that there's a diversity in like the race and culture and ethnicity of the people getting services, and I think that's really important because I think we still have diversity today, and it shows that it's been a while since we've been doing this, and I think it's great that we've come such a long way from being like segregated by race and disability to now having more inclusion. And I mean, IEPs have been around for 25, 30 years, and another study was in 1999 alone, 5.5 million children were under IDEA, so that's a decent amount of our population, and eventually these people are going to be transitioning to the workforce and to having an independent lifestyle. So if you want a summary of this article, remember the 3 components to the flow chart, which were support systems, school-based systems, and school activities. And also that qualitative and quantitative data are important in transition for students with disabilities.